Hello, everybody. I am recording this mere minutes before the lunar eclipse is at its max. It's going maximum at 10:34 p.m. tonight, which is September 17th of 2024. And we can already see that a lot of interesting stuff has happened in the past couple of days, and we can rest assured even more interesting stuff is going to be happening in the next 2 weeks between now and the solar eclipse on October the 2nd. Now, remember that we're actually in a little bit of a weird cycle this time. We have an almost eclipse happening 2 weeks after the solar eclipse on October 2nd. We've got a almost lunar eclipse happening on October 16th. So we have a full month where we're in kind of real eclipse energies, and it all starts in just a few minutes. It will start while I'm recording this video, and when it uploads, it will have just begun. We will have formally entered this eclipse portal. As a reminder, you can never have just one eclipse. They always come in sets of two or sometimes three, as is kind of the case with this one. And whenever you have these two eclipses or three eclipses, the window of time in between kind of opens up everybody's energy field on the whole earth, and we are able to interact with the spirit realm in a more serious way than we usually are capable of. This can be really good if you have really good energetic boundaries and you are committed to only interacting with like God and our angels, and we have good boundaries in that way. And it can be really negative if you have never set those kinds of boundaries and you are prone to interactions with more negative entities. We could call them even evil spirits. We can be easily deluded during these times and led astray, and we can more easily get divine revelation during this time, and it really just depends on how we choose to use this energy. How severe an eclipse portal will be for an individual person really comes down to their own natal chart. So for me, this day has really been quite a doozy for me already, and the eclipse hasn't even started yet. The eclipse starts in 5 minutes from right this second while I'm recording. And then I would say tomorrow is going to be the day that we start really feeling this eclipse energy. But I was born on the lunar eclipse in the Virgo Pisces axis 36 years ago. And so this is the lunar eclipse that matches my birth lunar eclipse. So I'm like expecting that even though today was crazy, probably tomorrow will be crazier for me personally. Most people were not born on that exact eclipse, so it will be a little bit different for you. If you have a lot of stuff in Virgo, if you have a lot of stuff in Pisces, if you have a lot of stuff in Gemini, if you have a lot of stuff in Sagittarius, these four, like the cross in that chart is going to be activating in a pretty big way. So just remember, of course, to drink a lot of water and breathe through it. Don't take yourself too seriously tonight. My kids have been so amazing at bedtime, and my daughter drew my daughter colored on so many walls today, guys, and I had like this 2 or 3 hour interview, and then I had to like prepare for it beforehand, and I just had appointments all day long, and every time I came out of an appointment another wall was covered, which I don't blame her because she was hanging out with a babysitter instead of her mom, and I don't think the babysitter let her do it, but like, anyways, it's been a crazy day. Um, but I'm sorry, I don't even know what I was talking about. Oh, not taking yourself too seriously. By tonight, I was like losing my mind, and just an hour ago, I had to just tell myself, like, pull yourself together, Allie. It's okay. Things are not as bad as you think. Like, yes, it feels like a disaster, but it's just an eclipse. Like, we're just gonna deal with it. Don't lose your mind. Like, I had to give myself this real pep talk. It was a weird day. And you can give yourself a pep talk. You can imagine me giving you a pep talk. I'll say, hey, buddy, get it together. You don't have to freak out right now. It's okay. This too shall pass. We can just take our deep breaths and get through it, because the crazy stuff that shows up right now is going to pass and it will be fine. Okay, remember we're building up to a solar eclipse in Libra. And so if you have a lot of Libra stuff, if you have a lot of Aries stuff, Cancer or Capricorn secondarily, those things are going to be triggered at that time. So that's 2 weeks. And in between now and October the 2nd is a perfect time for healing a whole bunch of stuff. So today I went ahead and put a bunch of stuff on sale because I don't know, because I wanted to. I thought, how am I going to help everybody? And this is how we're going to do it. This is my website, allieduzetclasses.com. And if it will load, okay, the ones I put on sale were all of my like pretty expensive ones. Get out of there. I didn't mean to click that. Um, that would be the anxiety series. The anger series, anger and anxiety both cost more. Most of my stuff is like $10. Those are like several $100s, but right now they're half off with the code Eclipse 2024. Let's see. The divorce series is down here, healing from divorce. And let's see. Come on. A couple other ones are, I have the whole list on Facebook and I'm going to copy and paste it. I think healing life force energy systems, but I can't remember. This one is really helpful for depression and if you have no will to live, that's the one that you want. And I even put Intuition Accelerator on sale, which is my big class on how to do the kinds of sessions that I do. And so this one is 8 weeks. I think this is the home study version. Anyway, all of these are really helpful classes if you've been like keeping your eye on them and they cost too much. This is a great time to check them out. So I'll put the links to those below. Let's take another look at the chart. So of course, in the past couple of days, we had an attack on a major political player. And today we saw some more interesting attacks happening in the Middle East. I don't know if you saw this, but Israel had somehow made it so all of the pagers that Hezbollah was using uh, were actually bombs and they all went off at the same time and like exploded everybody wearing these pagers at the same time, everyone at the same time. And I understand, I just read it somewhere, but I don't have it off the top of my head. I think 9 people died and like 2,800 people were injured, but it was only like active Hezbollah agents that had these on them. And anyways, it was a crazy attack. And I thought, oh boy, of course it's gonna be lining up with the lunar eclipse. There's a lot of Jewish tradition around eclipses. And I don't think the eclipse is um it's not visible from Israel, which is when it really, really counts in Jewish, belief or whatever. But let's see, I think they traditionally considered solar eclipses a bad omen for the world. But let's see, a lunar eclipse was considered a bad omen for Israel. And they believed that because Israel manages its calendar by the movement of the moon, and the idolaters, all the pagans, manage their calendars by the sun. So when the sun has an eclipse, then they say, oh, whoever's getting eclipsed, like God is not happy with them. And for the record, we were eclipsed 2 times in over 7 years, making that X across America in 2017 and then in April. So now we're having this lunar eclipse and I don't know, we'll have to see how this looks for Israel, but you can't see it from Israel. Where you can see it from is the eastern United States, and not very much. It's only like an 8% eclipse. So this is not like one of those huge glorious ones, but it is still an eclipse. It will still have those eclipse energies for you, and you will still feel it. As a reminder, this is the big grand trine that we're dealing with right now. And this is something I talked about in the video yesterday with Lila Sage in the context of the situation with one of our candidates for president that experienced some unpleasant experiences on Sunday. This grand kite is still active. And like I said in the video yesterday, this is an energy that's going to be impacting every single person alive. But we're going to see how it plays out differently for each individual person. And we're going to see it on the macro scale for the big power players. Like, I think it's safe to say, Donald Trump, his individual choices impact way more people than like my choices impact or your choices impact. Like, most of us are not power players, but he is a big power player, and how this kite shows up for him, how this kite shows up for Putin, how this kite shows up for Kamala in the context of their own charts is gonna, it's gonna show up differently and impact more people. So that's why we kind of like look at it in their contexts. But for each of us, we are also going to be affected. Now, the big thing that I talked about yesterday was this trine right here between Pluto and Uranus. And I talked about this book that I've been reading that talks about fate versus free will. And she argues that the planets of fate are Pluto and Uranus and Neptune. And that when those three are aspecting anything, you know that there is a bigger force at play. Now, I have been really skeptical of the concept of fate until like very recently, and I would say I'm still skeptical of it. I don't like it. I don't like the idea that we don't have control over our lives. And I personally believe that to a large extent we actually do. Like, I do believe that when we take responsibility for how our lives are showing up for us, there is so much power to that, and you can change so much about how your life is showing up for you. If you just say like, I'm done being the victim of my life, like I'm the power player of my own life. I am my main character, so like let me assess how my life is going and let me make a new choice. Like, what if I personally am behind every single part of where I am in my life? And like, what if I decide I'm done with that? What if I decide to think about this differently, to act differently, and put myself in a different place? What if I view myself as the main character in that book and start making different choices? What if I'm main character of my life? I think there's so much power to that. And I think a person can really do a lot. At the same time, even when you make those decisions, external forces show up and force you into places that you never thought that you would have to go. And I think at this point in my like really good friends can verify I've been like talking about this for weeks, possibly months at this point, where like every time we're having our like little talks, I'm like, oh my gosh, is it fate? Um, I've been very preoccupied with this. But I'm thinking at this time that fate is going to be the stuff that shows up in your life that your choices did not invite into your life. That would be like the sudden accident, the sudden relative that has something happen to them and you're affected, but you had nothing to do with it. These different external forces that show up and you really were truly uninvolved with how they showed up how they showed up for you. So these are not like internal things. These are external things that are showing up. That is my thought at this time. So let's go back to this chart because everything I'm talking about relates to what we're all going to be dealing with this exact eclipse portal. Because what we have here is the three planets of fate aspecting each other, which does not happen all the time. It really doesn't. But here we have Uranus, the planet of unexpected events that forces you into a state of authenticity. It forces you um, let's see, that's probably a bad way to put it because some people never get authentic. Like Uranus throws things at them over and over again and they never learn the lesson. You just have to be true to yourself. You just have to live in integrity every day. If you're honest every day, if you're honest with yourself and you're honest about yourself, like things, sometimes things that are hard still happen, but at least you're true to yourself. If some people never learn this lesson and they insist on lying and deluding themselves and deluding the people around them until the bitter end, okay? But the lesson of Uranus is allow these events to keep you honest. If you show up honestly, authentically, and vulnerably in all of your interactions, things are going to work out for you in a way that honors your deepest truth because you were honest about it. People cannot honor where you're at if you don't tell them where you're at. I wrote my book Magnetic Femininity, which is all about vulnerable communication. And the thing about that book, before I wrote that book, I was reading a bunch of other books about femininity. I joined a Facebook group by some horrible man about femininity. Bad mistake. Don't join a femininity group run by men. That's my opinion. But um in this group, what I found was that every time other people were typing in their problems with their marriages, I was like, why are you typing this? Like, your problem would be solved if you just were vulnerably communicating with your husband. Like, what is happening? And that's true in my own group. Not to put anybody on the spot, but almost 100% of the time, people that are like, I don't know what to do. The answer is vulnerably communicate. If we all just vulnerably communicated with our husbands, we would not need a magnetic femininity Facebook group. I really think there's just so much power in just speaking about this situation. Like, we just don't want to put ourselves out there and say, hey, I feel really sad. Why? Because, you know, this thing needed to happen and it didn't happen, and I feel so stressed about that. When we when we communicate vulnerably, it just removes the need to complain about it on the internet. That is the real truth. And I know some situations are pretty complicated, and when we have decades of calcified, like icky vibes between spouses, it complicates things and it feels hard to dig out of that with vulnerability, especially when we have so much bitterness and rancor and anger in there. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. Nobody said vulnerability was easy. It's not easy, and it's not supposed to be easy. At least it's not. I don't know. It can be easy over time, but I don't think it's anybody's default setting to experience vulnerability of expression with ease. And I just want to mention in that book, I go through the steps of vulnerable communication because this is not, I'm not telling you to just go and share your feelings with your husband, because probably the way you're sharing your feelings is the problem. And you're probably not sharing your feelings. You're probably attacking him. Anytime you use those ED words like, I feel betrayed, what you just said was, you betrayed me. And what you really felt is anger, sadness, sorrow, panic. Okay, those are feelings. Betrayed is not a feeling. Abandoned is not a feeling. When we start going to our husbands with non-vulnerable communication, which is really attacking, it causes big problems. So anyways, don't just start vulnerably communicating unless you know what you're doing. Go read my book. Okay. um all of that is to say, um Uranus is here to invite us into authentic communication, and he's trining with Pluto, and this is a little bit of a longer term situation where they're going to be an aspect for a while, and they have been for a while. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth, dissolve and evolve, transformation, resurrection. Pluto is there to prune away the stuff that's not working so that new life can emerge. But it's not fun. And nobody thinks that Pluto transits are fun. They are just really not. Pluto is not very fun. And Pluto in Capricorn deals with the economy, it deals with jobs and the workplace, and over here, Uranus and Taurus deals with money and land. This transit was last seen during the Great Depression. Okay, so what we have here is big vibes around the economy and money and the value of money, like inflation. Okay, and what can we expect? Some big trimming down of things that aren't working on a macro scale. We can expect unexpected events to show up that force us to get real about our values and to get real about how we're handling our physical stuff, our land, our bank accounts, our investments, our money. And then up here, they're both sextiling this Neptune at 28 degrees. You see 28, 29, 27. That's like pretty close. And they're all retrograde right now, which means that we're all invited to take a look at the past and say, what did I do that got me here? Which we're going to come back to, but I want to talk about what Neptune is up to as a concept. Neptune deals with spirituality. It deals with all the same stuff as Pisces. That spiritual connection to the beyond, our connection to angels, our connection to demons, even like our connections to the unseen spiritual world. That is what Neptune is the boss of. Neptune is also the boss of loss, which is something that I have not identified with so much. But in my same book about fate and like these big slow moving planets, she talks a lot about loss. And one interesting thing for me was that when I was 4 years old, my family moved. And at the time, I really felt like my family did not love me. Of course, I had my older disabled brother. My parents were not bad parents, they were great parents, but I just always felt like, why am I even here? My brother is the one that everyone cares about. And all I had was my little pillow. And I just like loved my pillow. I'm going to cry about it. I have like more healing to do, but I love my pillow so much. And I felt like it was the only thing that I had that kind of loved me back. No offense to my parents. I love you guys, but that is how I truly felt. And in this book I was reading, it said, if you have a Neptune transit that crosses your natal seventh house cusp, you can expect to lose something, probably a partner. Like you can expect to be losing something of really primary relationship significance. And she said, if it's not a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a spouse, or something like that, um, do not underestimate the power of losing a teddy bear. And I just like cried and I thought, oh my gosh. And I texted my mom and I said, what was the day that we moved from this house? And sure enough, that was the day that Neptune was transiting my seventh house cusp. And I thought, oh my gosh, the day that my pillow got lost and I never saw it again was the day that Neptune crossed my seventh house cusp. And I was devastated, devastated for months, clearly even devastated for years. Yeah, I'm embarrassed. It's okay. Actually, I'm not. I own it. Guess what? It was devastating and it was the worst. And I can cry about it if I want to. But Neptune deals with loss. So, what is this little triangle telling us? Right across from the sun, it's inviting us to dig into those feelings of loss. It's giving us an opportunity to look back in the rear view window. All these little RXs say these planets are appearing to move backwards from our perspective, and they're inviting us to take a look in the rear view mirror and see what things have we lost, what dead things have been trimmed away from us so that we could grow, where have unexpected events showed up that kind of shook us, and how did that all end us up where we are? And then how are we going to move forward better? Okay, to me that's the real point. How are we going to move forward? We don't look at the past to fixate on the past. That's not the point. A lot of us do that, and I have been a person that has done that. You know, certainly as a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old crying myself to sleep every night because I didn't have my little pillow. Uh I was devastated and I looked at the past every day. But we all lose big things and we can fixate on them and we don't get out of it. And that's why I have all the work on my website to help us get past that stuff. Like, go to the grief session, go to the hopelessness session, the frustration session, the forgiveness session. Like, start priming yourself to move out of the loss zone. If you are ready to do that, we have to start stepping forward into the future. How are we going to learn the lessons of the past so that we can step into the future? This is a really powerful 2-week window where we can decide, what kind of future do I really want? What kind of future do I want to take with me as I move ahead? And these big, slow moving planets are aligning to bring events into our lives organically outside of our control that make us really face this stuff. You know, I'm just thinking my own experience with this like silly pillow that I'm like crying about on the internet as like a grown woman. But I'm like, okay, this is a big loss that I had never really processed. I haven't even thought about it in years and years. And like, guess what I'll be processing tonight? This appears to be a big deal. What losses in your life are a big deal that you need to process at this time? This is a great time to really dig into them, especially since the moon, I mean, this whole eclipse is happening right at about the apex of this grand kite. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like so significant to me. As we head into the next 2 weeks, keep an eye out for the external events that show up to draw your attention to different things. So today, a lot of my day was crazy because I made it crazy. Okay, so in the past couple of weeks, I had scheduled, um, I scheduled this big interview. I scheduled a foot zone, which was amazing. Thank you, Amanda. And I scheduled with my husband to record this afternoon, but then what happened was my earlier interview had a problem and I had to like go back and fix things for like a full hour during the hour that I was supposed to record this video. This morning we woke up and discovered it was picture day at school. That's an unexpected, that I did not create that. That's like a fate moment. Guess what? It's school picture day. Surprise. Um, right before I was gonna do this video, I got a text from my neighbor. She needs powdered sugar immediately. I'm like, okay, I like click out of Zoom and like go grab the powdered sugar, run it to my neighbor. Like, that is something that I did not schedule that in my life. Like, there were crazy things I did schedule, there were crazy things I did not schedule that happened in my day. What are the crazy things that are going to be showing up for you that you did not bring into your life? Um, just remember that those things are there to help you remember what really matters. And for me, this has all just been a big reminder that I just have to stay like close to our creator. Like today, as I was putting all my kids to bed and they're all whining for water, and they're rolling around and they're getting out of bed and like up to their little shenanigans. And I go outside and there I find another patch of crayon all over my wall, and I'm like, I still have to make this video, and I have to take my neighbor powdered sugar. Um, you just tell yourself, okay, what is really important here? My connection with God is what's actually important. I actually do have time to do all of it. I actually do have time to do all of it calmly while I trust that I have enough time to do all of it. Okay, these are some of the big lessons that we're invited to learn and participate in at this time. So, oh man, guys, I had big plans to make a worksheet, a whole workbook for all of us for this eclipse portal, and did I? No, but I thought about it. So it's the thought that counts, right? Not really, but I still congratulate myself for thinking of it. This is the first time I thought of such a thing. Maybe next time. But in the meantime, I'm hoping to be helpful to us as we go through the next 2 weeks, because I don't know. We can expect some big stuff on the global stage, and we can expect big stuff in our personal lives. Even though the stuff that happened to me today was like small potatoes, crayon on the wall. That's not exactly a pager blowing up, you know what I mean? Um, but all of us are going to have these little things show up at different degrees in our lives, and we just have to remember we got to stay grounded, stay connected to our creator. Tomorrow, the moon will be crossing over into Aries. And so, as it does that, we may feel a little bit more fiery and a little bit more explosive and a little bit more ready to bite people's heads off if we get upset. So please, I beg of you to remember this and keep it calm. Yes, you may feel explosive. Please do not act on it. It's not necessary. You don't need to act on it. It can be safe to feel the explosive anger in your heart and to feel upset, and take your deep breaths and win the Actress of the Year award by successfully managing the external expression of what's going on in the inside. Okay, we can be kind to people even when we feel very upset. It is possible. I know it. Okay, hang in there, guys. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow, and enjoy your eclipse.